Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening again, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, Season 5, Episode 35 tonight. Overall, 255th episode of Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. And thank you to everybody for watching the first show with Andrew Wood. And I'm looking forward to my guest for the second show here. His name is Brian Snow. He is a radio show host, and he's also a content creator like myself. He's a sports journalist, and he's also the host of the Brian Snow podcast show. And he's on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Atlanta, like myself. Brian's show is on Monday to Friday from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock as well. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Brian Snow today about how he got into the broadcasting industry. I think he said something about 27 years ago, and he's also a huge San Francisco 49ers fan. So hopefully I get to talk to Brian about his career in broadcasting and also being a fellow podcaster such as myself, and also he's also a sports journalism and content creator like myself as well, guys. So before we get to Brian, again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. You can check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210. And tell them CDP, aka Chris Palme, sent you there as well. And also, guys, you can now pre-order the all-electric Cadillac Lyric, or also the all-electric Silverado as well. And you guys can do a test drive of the Cadillac Lyric if you contact Barry Cullen Chevrolet at the number I mentioned, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. And also, guys, check out the 2023 Chevy Trailblazers as well. I'm quite happy with my RS model as well. And a shout out to Nathan Lott again for selling that vehicle as well. As we wait for Brian Snow to come on, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights at 8 o'clock on radio station WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Metro Atlanta. And it's known for its Southern talk and sports talk. And I want to say a shout out to Ryan O'Neill, the station manager, for giving my show a chance on his network radio station. And it's pretty cool hearing my show 3 to 4 nights a week on WQEE as well. So yeah, and I'll put the website here, guys. The website is WQEEFM.radio. 12345.com. I just put it on the ticker again. It's WQEEFM.radio.12345.com as well, guys. And just wanted to mention, Live with CDP Sports Talk is always live streamed live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn as well. And while we're waiting for Brian, guys, just 1 second. I will let you guys put this on here. Live with CDP Sports Talk. The audio version is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, and Tuned In as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, I highly recommend StreamYard as well, guys. Also, you can follow me on TikTok. I post a lot of content there at Live with CDP on TikTok as well. And guys, before we get to Brian, hopefully Brian will be on shortly, guys. question for you guys tonight is what are your thoughts on the NCAA March Madness and all the upsets so far, and who's your pick to meet in the championship game? Right now, I have no picks. It's just lot of drama and a lot of great finishes and a lot of upsets. So we'll see. I think the next games for the NCAA tournament, which is down to what the Sweet 16, I think the games are Thursday night as well, guys. And while we're still waiting for Brian Snow to come on, uh, my next live with CDP Sports Talk, again brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Season 5, episode 36 will be tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with my guest, Abby Alonso. She's an NFL analyst, sports journalist from Dallas, Texas. So I'm looking forward to speaking to Abby about some NFL stuff, the offseason, some of the moves. Devin Singletary signed with the Texans. Damian Harris signed with the Bills recently. CJ Gardner Johnson left the Eagles to go to the Detroit Lions. Dalton Schultz just recently signed with Houston coming from Dallas. So there's been some nice pickups in the offseason as well. So yeah, tune in tomorrow night to Live with CDP Sports Talk, season 5, episode 36 with Abby Alonso at 8 o'clock Eastern. And it should be a good show with Abby as well. As you guys know, guys, I was at the Buffalo Bandits game against the Colorado Mammoths, the defending NLL champs from last year, who beat the Bandits in the finals 2-1 at the KeyBank Center last June. They played Saturday night, and the Mammoths won the rematch 13-8 over the Bandits. And I was working as a media member thanks to the National Lacrosse League, Ryan Ireland, and also to Kelsey Smith, who's an intern with the Buffalo Bandits. And my guest is on right now, guys. So just bear with me, and I'm going to bring on my guest, Brian Snow. Right now, we're going to talk a little sports. And I really appreciate Brian giving me some time to come on tonight. Good evening, Brian. How you doing?
I'm sorry I'm late. I had a little 4-legged daughter named Lucy to take care of, and she had to go run around and all that good stuff. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
No worries. And hey, like I said, in the radio media industry, you know this as well, Brian. The show has to go on, and
Yes.
I knew you were going to come on, so I
Yes.
was just rambling on a little bit, and it's just nice to finally be able to connect with you as well, buddy. Really appreciate you doing this. And hey, it's a great time of the year for sports, Brian. You got the March Madness, which is on, which is crazy, and then you got the World Baseball Classic on, and I think the championship game is on right now between Japan and the USA. All right, guys, we're just waiting for Brian to fix his audio mic. Hopefully, Brian will be back on in a minute or so. But yes, it's a great time of the year for sports. You got the NHL winding up, going to the playoffs. The OHL is heading to the playoffs as well. Then you've got the obviously the NBA on, NCAA basketball. You got the National Lacrosse League on
It's
as well.
March
So
and it's mad.
it's definitely. You all good to go now, Brian? Okay. Hey guys, just bear with us. Hey, it's just like this in the radio or the TV industry. Brian's just having a slight audio issue, so hopefully we'll have Brian come back on in a couple of minutes. But Brian is from Chicago, Illinois, but he is a San Francisco Niners fan as well. So we'll talk to him about the Niners and stuff like that as well. Since we're waiting for Brian, guys, I might just show you guys a clip of the post-game media call that I attended at the KeyBank Center on Saturday night with the Buffalo Bandits and the National Lacrosse League. And the player in this interview is Chris Cloutier. Oh, 1 second. We're just going to, Brian's back on. We'll save this clip for later. So just bear with me and we'll bring back Brian is back. Hey, are you good now?
I hate fighting with my toys.
It happens. It happens. Hey, technology, Brian, as you know, is great at times, but at times it can be frustrating as well.
And it just seems like lately it's trying to like really get back at me, going, "Hi, you've had all this success. Now we're gonna get you." But
Yes,
it's the 21st century. It's the age of technology, and it happens to the best of us. And
absolutely.
the worst part is when you go live and you test everything. There's a rule that I have, and I know you follow it. with the sports that you follow, test everything before you go on. Test everything. My wife tells me all the time before a play-by-play call, make sure you test everything.
Yep.
Well, I do, but then there are times when I get on site, everything's set up. It's supposed to run the way that you test it, but then when you turn the button on to go
Yep.
live, something goes haywire all the time.
It happens. It happens. Hey, and doing TV work with Rogers TV and University of Guelph here in Ontario.
Mhm.
Sometimes for a broadcast, you can test stuff out before broadcast, and then something happens
Yep.
during it, and it's just something you gotta
Yep.
get through and work through it. It can be frustrating at times.
All the time. All the
Hey,
time.
and since I have you on right now, our both of our shows are on WQEE FM 99.1 FM, the Key and Metro Atlanta area.
Yep.
Brian, again, when is your show on from Monday to Friday?
Snowman in the Morning airs live on YouTube at 8 a.m. Eastern. The replay on WQEE is 6 p.m. Eastern. My second show, The Brian Snow Show, goes at 2 p.m. live, and the replay is at 5 p.m. Eastern. So I get a full 3-hour block with WQEE, and thanks to the folks at WQEE for picking up both my shows.
And thank you to Ryan O'Neill as well for picking up my show. I think this is my third week with the station.
Beautiful.
How long have you been with WQEE now, Brian?
This is also my third week with them.
Wow, so we pretty well started at the same time.
Yeah, pretty much. And we have a common friend. We have a common friend that is also on WQEE, the great Rod Peterson and the Rod Peterson Show.
Absolutely. He is one of the best in the business, and
Yeah,
I had him on my show a couple months ago. I didn't think I'd have a chance of getting him on my show, and he came on and gave me 50 minutes, and he mentioned this station, and I do think he put in a good word with Ryan, and it's just a great opportunity to have my Canadian podcast show in the U.S. market. So
yeah. Well, then I have a surprise for you. I'd like to pick it up myself for my radio station.
wow, well, thank you so much. And I've only been doing podcasting for 3 years. And when I first started, Brian, I was lousy. I was only on Instagram Live. I couldn't
Yep.
get guests on. And then I kept working at it, blocking out the haters, the naysayers for about 4 months. And then I finally got an actress on from LA. She came on my Instagram show. And then eventually it became on Facebook as well. So for me, my journey has been a later journey. Most people start their journeys in their 20s and 30s. I decided to wait until I was about 47, 48 to start my journey into broadcasting.
Doesn't matter when you start, long as you start. Long as you start. That's something.
It's not how you.
It's something my dad used to tell me all the time. Doesn't matter how long you wait to start, long as you start. I mean, and the first couple of years I was in broadcasting, I was lousy because, well, my favorite play-by-play announcer is the late great Jim Durham, who voiced Bulls games for many, many years, and that basically turned the light on for me. I listened to him on WMAQ. Let me change that. WIND in late 1985 called Bulls Bucks playoff game. And I basically said, hey, if he can do it, so can I. So starting with the 85-86 season, when I would lay my hands on a tape recorder, I would just practice. I would tape the Bulls games off the radio. I'd listen back to it, and then I would try to repeat everything I heard. That turned the light on for me. And I didn't think I'd get any big time guests either. And then a fellow named Cliff Levingston showed up on location in Michigan City in 2013. Cliff Levingston, of course, 2-time champion with the Chicago Bulls. And that basically opened the spigot for me. So I took a year off for 2014. And then 2015, I had Diamond Dallas Page on. I had a couple other sportscasters on, including Dave Sims, a fellow cancer survivor. And off to the races we went.
And those are great announcers. And speaking of the Chicago Bulls, I've had some success with them. I've had Chuck Swirsky, their current guy, come on my show, Tim St. Clair, and the legendary Tommy Edwards, who created the serious opening lineup for the Bulls back in '84 came
Yep.
on my show as well. Even though I'm a Detroit Pistons fan, I missed the rivalry with the Bulls. And when you speak to guys like with Chuck Swirsky,
Yes.
Tim St. Clair, and Tommy Edwards, I kind of like cheer for Chicago now, as long as they're not playing my Pistons.
In my years of covering the Bulls, I had the pleasure of meeting Tommy Edwards, the original, one of the original stadium voices. Chuck Swirsky was the original stadium voice of the stadium for a long time, and then Tommy Edwards came along, and then of course the great Ray Clay took over for Tommy Edwards in 1990. Man, Tommy shared so many stories with me because he was on the Larry Lujak show on WIND, and they had a segment called Animal Stories. And I've been researching that recently, keeping my connection with Tommy Edwards. Man, some of those stories had me laughing so hysterically. They had me laughing so hysterically. So when I met Tommy, I said, before we get started, you got to give me an animal story. And he just made up one off the cuff. And I went up to my box, and that did it for me. And you mentioned you're a fan of the Detroit Pistons. I loved their PA setup too in the Silverdome and at the Palace of Auburn Hills. There were two names that I loved, even though I couldn't stand the Detroit Pistons, but I loved the rivalry with the Bulls, especially in the late 80s when they would always get together for the Eastern Conference Finals. The two names that I loved, I think it was Dick Calvert, who was the PA announcer at
Ken Calvert.
Ken Calvert. There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of them, and I think you know this name, was Vinnie Johnson, and he would always make those baskets that would kill us. But the other one, but the other one, he was a Finals MVP, Joe Dumars
from McNeese State.
From McNeese State University. Man, Joe Dumars, and whenever I thought the Bulls would have a chance to beat the Pistons, Joe Dumars would kill us. Him and Vinnie Johnson and Isaiah Thomas, that three-guard alignment. Joe Dumars used to hit shots that would kill us. Vinnie Johnson, same thing. Bill Laimbeer, same thing. Just when you thought you had Laimbeer bottled up, he'll just crack open an 18-footer and splash.
To me, that was one of the best rivalries. Everyone talks about
Celtics
and Celtics, Lakers, Pistons, Lakers were good, but to me, the Bulls and the Pistons there were great. And even though the Bulls did surpass the Pistons, they needed the Pistons to learn how to win.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah, they did. I talk about it all the time on my show. It's progression. You had to take the bully out to become the bully. And for the first couple of years of Michael Jordan's era, it was the Boston Celtics. 85, 86, 85 it was Milwaukee. 86 and 7 it was Boston because they swept us twice. 88, 89, and 90 it was the Detroit Pistons. We had to learn to get by the Detroit Pistons. And each year, just when it seemed like we were ready to turn the corner, especially in 89, when we got to the Eastern Conference Finals for the first time since 1975, Joe Dumars showed up. And all I can think of,
he was a quiet.
All I can think of every time Joe Dumars would hit one of those big shots that would kill us, I would just look and go, really? And then he had to realize the Bulls weren't ready. I mean, we had Superman, but Superman didn't have a great supporting cast. Let me say that he had a good supporting cast with Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant and John Paxson, but they weren't Bill Laimbeer, Mark Aguirre, Adrian Dantley, and Vinnie Johnson. They weren't them.
And Isaiah Thomas.
And Isaiah Thomas. You had the two leaders, Isaiah Thomas and Michael Jordan, but then you had the supporting cast. And the Pistons, beginning in 85, were building a superior supporting cast when they drafted Joe Dumars, when they snatched up Vinnie Johnson, when they snatched up Bill Laimbeer, James Buddha Edwards. Who else? And they made a trade for Adrian Dantley from Mark Aguirre, and Mark Aguirre was one. And I'm wondering what the hell are the Pistons doing with Mark Aguirre? Then they had the answer. I mean, I love Adrian Dantley, loved AD because he really blossomed with the Detroit Pistons. But the Pistons needed that versatility at the forward spot. I mean, you already had two big bruisers with Lane Beer at center and James Edwards, and then later on Dennis Rodman, who became a starter in place of Aguirre. So Aguirre went to the bench and gave him that burst of energy, the second unit burst of energy. That's the versatility the Pistons needed to win the two titles that they did, because the teams that they faced, the Lakers and the Portland Trail Blazers, had that versatility at the forward spot. Now in '89, you couldn't see it with the Lakers because they were so beat up and injured, even though they swept everybody on their way to the finals. 1990 with Detroit, you really could see how big Mark Aguirre and Vinnie Johnson were in terms of versatility against the Portland Trail Blazers.
And one thing I wanted to say to you as well, I think the Pistons should have been the first team to three-peat
Yeah.
in the NBA since the Celtics.
Yep.
That 88 NBA Finals, I still have not gotten over it, because to me, the call on Lambeer by the officials, the phantom call, cost us. And it just, I really felt the Pistons were the better team than the Lakers in 88. And I had no complaints when they swept the Lakers in 89. I did not feel sorry for them. I just really thought the Pistons team, they get a bad rep. Okay, they were a physical team. Okay, a little violent, but they were, to me, were a dynasty. And they went to the final 3 years in a row, and they really should have won 3 in a row. And I admit, in 91, the Bulls were the better team, and no excuses there. The Pistons run was kind of over by the end of 91, but I just love that rivalry between Detroit and Chicago. I'm hoping these two franchises can get it together in the next year or two, because both of them have struggled for the last decade.
Same here. Same here. I'm hoping for that rivalry to be rekindled as well. And you mentioned something that's very important. The Pistons had to learn to get through the Celtics, and therefore the Bulls had to learn to get through the Pistons. There's something missing in the NBA. It's called a natural progression. You don't see it with teams anymore. You don't see it with stars anymore. And anybody who's listening to my show, tomorrow is Wednesday. Bronze-Sexual Confessions are during the second hour. Anybody who's heard Bronze-Sexual Confessions knows what it's about. But I will give a brief synopsis. My partner Cole created Bronze-Sexual Confessions for his show, Cole Sports, and when I invited him to be my radio partner and also the executive producer of my show, I said, "Can you bring Bronze-Sexual Confessions over to the show?" So what we do, he created a character that basically highlights what bronze-sexuals think. And I tell you, when we do our Bronze-Sexual Hour on Wednesdays, it's off the charts. It's absolutely off the charts.
And that's the one thing I'm trying to do too with my audience, is try to get them more involved as well. One thing, Brian, when you do start a podcast, it takes time. And I also was talked to by Eric Smith as well. He goes, don't always focus on the numbers, just focus on having good guests, good shows, and having good natural conversations. Because when I first started, Brian, I still write stuff down, like points and notes and stuff. But when I first started, everything was all scripted. And Eric Smith, who does a great job with the Raptors, gave me some good advice. Just talk to your guests like you're at a coffee shop or at an arena.
And that's what I had to learn too. That's what I had to learn when I started Snowman in the Morning. I had like 3 other subsequent podcasts that I didn't focus on because I didn't know how I was going to produce them and how I was going to promote them. And even, 15 years in the game, I'm still learning, because this is a digital age and we can do so much promotion wise with this digital age. And I'm learning this from the guests that I've had on, learning from you as well, from Rod Peterson, from Darren DuPont, and those guys. I got to tell you the story how I met Rod. I was in North Carolina and I was at work one day and I had a 15-minute break and I plug in my headphones and I hear Rod, talking sports. So I said, let me tune in. Let me see what's going on here. Fell in love with the show. In those 15 minutes, I fell in love with the show. After my work day was done, I reached out to Rod and I said, Rod, I love your show. I love how you bring it. I got to have you on. He and I have been brothers since.
Wow, that's a great story. And I reached out to him as well, but I didn't think he would come on, and he came on, and he's one of my supporters, and it's really nice because he's a legend. He's a legend in Western Canada, and that's the one thing, Brian, I admit, not just yourself, but so many people in this industry, they don't care about my age. They don't care that I've only been doing this for 3 years. They're so supportive, and it keeps me motivated and extra fuel when you hear legends give me compliments and come on my show. It's just amazing. Yeah. And what you just said there, Brian, I can't say any better.
No, look, I wholly support you. Okay. I'm going to turn 51 this year, and there's still a lot for me to learn. I mean, one of my best teachers is the woman I married. Jody has been my biggest critic, but also at the same time, my biggest supporter, because she'll give me little tips on how to do things better and be more efficient, because I will admit aloud, I don't have any more patience. But in this game, in this realm, I must have patience, because now that I'm actually getting things right, and you understand this too, being a baby in the game, now that I'm actually getting things right, it's going to take the patience, and it's going to take the great content to be delivered to get to the masses. And the one thing I learned this past weekend, when my anxiety was so far out of control, I didn't know what to do, my wife calmed me down and said, "Look, you just beat cancer. You're still recovering from that. Why are you worried about getting a job outside the home?" And I'm crying. I'm absolutely in tears. I said, "Because I want to help the family so badly, it's not even funny." She said, "You know how you can help us? You can stay at home, take care of the house, make sure the house is clean, take care of the animals, and then your best weapon is in front of you," as you pointed to my microphone. So the thing I've had to learn, especially recently, and this is the best piece of advice I can give to anyone that's either a 15, 20-year veteran like myself, or someone who's just starting out like Chris, the patience has to be there. Part one. Part two, here, give me this notebook. I use this notebook as a prop, but I also use this to schedule everything, including the times I'm going to be working on my website, including the times I'm going to be scheduling guests, because eventually this is going to take off where my wife is going to be my administrative assistant, and she's going to do a whole bunch of other things with my business. I know that time's coming, and it's coming soon. Until then, I've got to be responsible for my own time. And physically, sometimes I get so tired that I just go lay down, and the next thing I know, 4 hours are gone. But now I've scheduled that time, that downtime also, where I can, get some downtime, completely shut down, put on an audiobook and sleep for a bit, and then be up, have a lot of energy, and, get back to it. And before I go to bed every night, a lesson that I'm also learning is to plan out my time for the next day or the next couple of days. Because now I have an electronic calendar that tells me when my guests are coming. So it gives me a clue on what kind of promotion I have to do. And I know you've asked me, am I going to have a promotion card for your appearance on my show for Thursday? I most certainly am. In fact, I'm going to create that tonight. That's going to be my assignment before I call it a night, is to get all my promotion cards done for the rest of the week for my show, and promote your appearance and a couple of other appearances. That's going to be my project tonight. But you have to create them. You have to create them, and I'm basically going to take you under my wing and show you Canva, because someone had to show it to me 10 years ago.
Yeah, and I have an account with them now, so I get an account with them now.
Good. It's really going to come in handy. And even if when I discovered, or someone pointed out Canva to me, I feel like I'm still a complete novice, and I'm discovering things every day. I watch and I listen. I listen to I watch for layouts on videos. How are they laying this out? How can I do this? How can I make this better? Man, I take every one of those pieces of lessons that I learn, and I store it, and I write a lot of it down, to the point where I'm forbidden by Jody to bring notebooks into the house, because she has plenty of them now in the garage. I got to share this story. For those who know, I am happily married to my Jody K, and I joke about her all the time, and she jokes with me all the time. But one day when we were living in North Carolina, I went to Walmart. I don't know why I was in this mood, but I said, you know what? I got to get more organized. And for me, part of that is having notebooks here in my office. I have to have notebooks so I can write stuff down, different notebooks. I came in with 5 of them and like 3 packs of pens in my effort to get organized. And I thought I hid them in my desk, but they were on my desk in plain sight. And I got caught. So Jody comes to me and says, look, that's the last time you're bringing any notebooks in the house. And I'm thinking, okay, I did something totally wrong. She says, come here. I went into her office and she pulls out this box and she said, open it. I open it and it's stacked with notebooks. And she starts cracking up laughing. She goes, now do you understand why I forbid you to buy notebooks? Yes. She'll just point me to the box. But when you have, to tie it into what we were talking about a moment ago, when you have support like that they're willing to invest their time and their lessons in you and with you, all you can do is get better, because someone had to believe in Darren DuPont. Someone had to believe in Rod Peterson. Someone had to believe in us. Someone had to believe in Colin Cowherd. Someone had to believe in the folks that people listen to on a daily basis. Someone had to believe in what we are doing. And the numbers are few for right now. But I guarantee you, within the next year, that's going to explode. I'm already planning an off-the-cuff podcast series with a young lady who has become a very good friend. And, she leans on me for advice. Her boyfriend leans on me for advice. And it's like, okay, I may be an old guy, but I can spread some wisdom, and people younger than I have spread wisdom with me, because they're getting into the age now. They're getting into the digital age where they have the tools already in front of them, whereas you and I had to fish around to find them.
Yes, exactly. And I'm the same age as you, Brian. I can relate to you in so many ways. And I've been able to work with younger people and people that are older than me in this industry, and they've all been great with me. And
Oh, yeah.
I never really thought I could work with the younger generation, and they've been really great with me in this media field.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you work with, doesn't matter their age. If they spread a little bit of wisdom for you and they have belief in you, work with them, go with it. Because
Absolutely.
I want to be where Darren is. I have my own company, Snowman Multimedia. It's not turning over any numbers yet, but um Dupes reaches out to me occasionally and says, how are things going? Did you make this move yet? Did you make that move yet? And then if I told him I didn't, it was like, okay, what are you waiting for? What's going on? Let's talk. And we'll schedule times to be on and talk. And I do that now with my guests in an effort to get more organized. And the fun part is, it's the digital age. There's so
Absolutely.
much learning to be done. But the best part is, you can learn all this by doing it.
Absolutely. And one thing I wanted to ask you, Andrew, since I have you on, I've got a lot of support, but I also have a lot of naysayers. They're saying, Chris, you've done this for 3 years. You're not getting paid. And I said, I'm getting experience. I'm getting skills. I'm a camera operator. I do graphics. I do replay. I do a podcast. I'm a producer.
Mhm.
And some of not all of them, but some of them look at the money aspect. Don't get me wrong, it's important, but they're like, you should be making instant money. And I'm like, it takes time in a new career.
You know what I say to those guys? Because I've had to deal with the same thing. The hell with them. Like I said, the people who really will support you will continue to. Period. They're not worried about money. They're not worried about instant returns. They're worried about seeing you succeed and explode. I've had to learn that over this past weekend. And a little bit more about myself. There are 2 things that I suffer from that a lot of people won't understand. That's depression and anxiety. And it really got my anxiety really has been highlighted when I went through my battle with cancer. And when I got declared disabled, I felt good physically, but my stomach churned because now I'm thinking, how am I going to help my family if I'm declared disabled? And like I said, that's when the pep talk with my wife happened on Friday because I got turned down for a local job. And as it turns out, I had the same job in North Carolina, but I had to leave because I got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer and I had blood clots in both my lungs. I physically couldn't handle it. And this lady was set to hire me, but that third strike came down and I emotionally lost it. I emotionally lost it because it's like, okay, well, now what do I do? And this is on the heels of me getting scammed by a job for the second time. And one of the first things Jody said to me after she calmed me down, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is, especially in an age where remote work is starting to pile up. It's starting to pile up, and COVID knocked us in the mouth. So you had a lot of remote jobs, and all these scam artists came in. They got me. They got me, and the first person who commiserated with me was my daughter, because it happened to her a couple of years ago. And Sonia came in and she asked me, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I'm not okay." And I let loose. Because if anybody knows anything about me, family is so important to me. Family is very important to me, and it's like I want to be there for them, and I want to help them. I want to support them, especially financially. But I go back to Friday when Jody calmed me down, and she said, "You're here. You're above ground." When the folks at Duke University Hospital, yes, I'm dropping names, told Jody to prepare to put me in a box.
Wow.
Because they said that the tumor that I had, the pancreatic tumor that I had, was inoperable. So we left North Carolina. We left North Carolina before Halloween, 2021. Came up here to Indiana. It took us a couple of months, but got some insurance. And then I got hooked up with Dr. Roganoff, I got my cancer doctor. And he said, "Let me make a phone call." Well, he made a phone call, and Dr. Attila Nakib, who has since retired on April 4th last year, got the tumor out. A few other organs had to come with it, and I'm still dealing with the effects of that. But do you know how good it feels? I know I'm forever going to be a cancer patient. I already know that because I got to get checkups. I know that, and I realize that. But you know how good it feels to be able to go somewhere and just sit and talk to people and just have fun and let people see what you do? It gets them talking. When you're on location, you know this from the 3 years you've done this. When you're on location, people talk.
Yep.
People talk and people get curious. I had forgotten that. I did. I really had forgotten that until I went to Starbucks one morning in Edinburgh, Indiana, not far from where my wife works. And I said, "Let's go for it." Yeah, people talk. When you're on location, doing your podcast, or from wherever, people talk. People talk and people get curious.
I haven't done that yet. I should look at it. The only thing I would be worried about is the Wi-Fi connection in that building. You need to really have good Wi-Fi connection to do your podcast.
Do you know how many times Wi-Fi almost quit on me in the many times I've done remote podcasts, remote shows? I don't care. I keep trying. I get knocked down by, bad Wi-Fi, equipment failure. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I'm still at it.
I should try it. I think it's a great idea what
Try
you're
it.
doing with the mobile podcast. I am doing now live in person interviews, and
Good.
I love it. It's one thing to do the podcast remotely. I love doing this as well. But when you're doing it live, like you said, in person, completely different experience.
It's a different atmosphere. It's a completely different atmosphere because people will ask questions. Don't get it twisted. People will ask questions, even though they want to they want to hate on what you do. They want to down what you do. They want to say, "Okay, are you bringing in any are you bringing in any money yet?" Who the hell cares? You're
I
building a
get that
great brand.
constantly.
I get it. I get it. It took me until last Friday to finally have the light turned on, and my beloved Jody turned the light on for me. My beautiful wife of 4 years, almost 4 years, turned the light on
Congrats.
for me. She calmed me. She calmed me down, and she said, "Just roll with it. You take care of home. You take care of your show and your company, and when that explodes, then you can take care of us. But you have to do it on your terms and what your body will allow you to do." I mean, when I came back to do the show after my surgery, I could only sit up for 15 minutes. And that was by order of Dr. K, which is Jody. She said, "Don't push it." And there are times I got to remind myself not to push it. I mean, recently, um, a friend of mine and I mutually agreed to put a halt to my weekly appearance because he basically said, "I think you took on too much." And I had to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, I think I did. So we're going to recalibrate come college football season and really kick ass.
I can relate to you in another way. For a while there, I was doing 5 podcast shows a week, working midnight shifts, and I would be doing my shows with very little sleep. And as much as I love doing it, it was becoming so much work, and I wasn't getting enough sleep. So,
Yep.
for me, ideally, Brian, I kind of like to do 2 to 3 shows a week, ideally, sometimes 4, but for me, ideally, 2 to 3 a week is perfect for me because sometimes you can get overwhelmed. And somebody else told me this in the media industry: make sure you don't suffer burnout in this industry.
Yes. I got burned out several times. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to put this mic down and I'm never going to pick it up. And then a little part of me going, "No, you don't. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that." It's the best way I can put it. When you want it so badly, doing what you love to do, it's an ache.
Absolutely. I wake up every morning and I look forward to doing my podcast shows, and I love hearing my voice on the WQEE every night as well. And it's just, this is one of my goals, was to get my show on a radio station. And I still get people looking at me saying, "How is somebody from Canada on a US radio station?" And I said, "Well, obviously they like the fact that my podcast is international. I get guests
Yep.
from Canada and the US on, and I'm very lucky. I have a good list of connections in the industry now."
Mm-hmm. Same here. Same here. I mean, I'm setting up an interview with uh, a woman who is a play-by-play announcer and has done the Indiana State Finals for boys basketball for the last 50 years. I'm just waiting
Wow.
on a day and time for her to get back to me. And I've already, when whatever day she gives me, I know I'm clearing an hour.
Yes.
Already
Yes.
done. I've
You
already,
got to be one thing, you said it before earlier. You have to be flexible in this industry,
yep,
especially with guests and stuff like that. And I learned that right away. And the guests appreciate it when you're flexible with them. They don't forget that. Ben Volen from the Boston Globe had to cancel on me at one time,
yep,
and I did my show solo. And Ben said that night, "I'm so sorry if something came up." And he came on that night and gave me an hour of his time. And he said, "I'll come back on your show again." Guests don't forget when you're flexible and you
no,
accommodate them.
they don't. They don't. I had to cancel on a guest today because I had to run a family errand, and she politely told me, lock down a time when you know you're going to be available, or I'll have to respectably pass. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Fair, totally fair, totally fair. When you're a parent, though, your flexibility,
It changes.
yes,
Yes, so I'm not a parent, but I completely understand. And I was a Big Brother volunteer years ago, and being a parent is a full time job itself.
it is. It is.
Absolutely.
So when my daughter texted me and said, "I think I'm done for the day. Can you come get me?" You know, have to tell me twice. I'm out the
Yep.
door.
Yeah, and you gave me enough notice. No, it
Yep.
was no worries, and I was like, okay, no worries. And I suggested 8 o'clock, and it worked out great for us.
Here we
Um,
are, man.
are you okay for a few more minutes and just a couple more
Oh,
questions?
keep going. Keep going, man.
Okay. Okay. This question I wanted to ask you: did you have a mentor or mentors when you were first starting up in this industry?
My dad. My dad was my dad would hear me listen to radio sports all the time. And once he heard me say, "Man, I wish I could do play by play like them." And he leaned over and he said, "Why can't you?" Um, the guy who gave me my first opportunity at Chicago State University, John Kalidas, he was the station manager at the time, and he heard me do a play by play sequence out loud. And I thought, okay, he heard me. He thinks I'm nuts. But he approached me and he said, "How'd you like to be the sports director of our station as well as do play by play for Chicago State?" I took it and ran with it. Didn't get paid, but I took it and ran with it because I saw the experience. I saw the experience. I saw the
Opportunity
experience.
too.
I saw opportunities to visit University of Missouri, University of Illinois. Um, where else did we go? We went to Valparaiso, went to Kentucky, we saw Cleveland State, Missouri, Kansas City. I've had a chance to do places arena as old as Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri. It was 2002. Funny story about that. I was ready to go. My mic broke.
Oh,
I wasn't live at the time, but I plugged my mic into my recorder. I hit pause, hit play and record, and I'm ready to go. And I pick up the microphone and it splintered. It came apart. Fortunately, the folks at UMKC had 2 extra microphones, and he said, "Here, use." And they said, "Here, borrow this one." And they actually gave me a headset that I plugged from XLR into an adapter into another adapter that's a into an adapter that's a 1/4 inch into another adapter that's an 1/8 inch. On with the show. So believe me, I've had to borrow in 27 years. I cannot tell y'all. I've had to borrow a bunch of equipment to get by in doing games. But now, in building for season 28, that's going to start in August, I've written down a wish list. I have put that onto Amazon, and one at a time, I will have all the items I need for next season.
absolutely. And there's things I want to upgrade to as well, but I'm going to take that approach as well, one thing at a time and stuff like that. And the
Mhm.
way I look at it, I have come a long ways in 3 years, and from the sounds of it, you've come a long way as well. And Brian, I've only known you for a few weeks, but you have that voice on the radio and on your show, and you can tell when somebody's passionate, and I can tell you're very passionate. And even though we live in different countries, our stories are a little bit similar. And like I said, I really enjoyed talking to you, and it's just great to finally connect here tonight.
It's great to connect with you as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing everything that you do and following everything that you do.
I'm still a work in progress. One thing I wanted to ask you, Brian, if still got a few more minutes.
Go ahead.
For me, I still have a hard time listening to my voice. Did you ever have that when you first started out, that you just didn't like the sound of your voice?
Do you want to know how many cassette tapes I've gone through over the years? Recording my
How many?
voice, hating it. And even though I hated it, I still listen. Man, too many to count. And then when the process became digital, I went through too many doggone handheld recorders. I mean, there are times I still don't like my voice, but I still listen. I mean, that's the only way you can get better.
Absolutely. It's just for me, I'm still trying to get used to listening to my voice and stuff like that. But I've heard that too from some other guys, and I wanted to ask you about that as well. Now, Brian, this question I wanted to ask you: how did you end up again starting up your own podcast show, media production company? And can you tell my audience here, who some of them think anybody can do a podcast, what are some of the challenges of starting up your own media production company and also a podcast?
Having the nerve is the first thing. You can think about it all you want, but until you put thought into action, it's just that. It's just a thought. Take a chance. Take a I've had to reset my show and my company so many darn times. It's not even funny. I didn't know what brand I would end up with, and I thought, everything would I thought I had a name for it and everything would be okay. But then I let the domain name expire on the website, and unbeknownst to me, when it did expire in 2019, that's like, okay, now I got to set everything in motion again. Now I have the name, which is Snowman Multimedia, and a division of that, Snowman Multimedia Sports. And it's like my wife told me, you got the brand, build on it. What are some of the challenges? I'll tell you the biggest one that I've had to run into, especially lately: trusting people. Let me put it in the full sentence: trusting the right people. Trusting the right people that will not try to snatch your dream or your ideas from you. This is a cutthroat industry, be it radio or be it digital. This is a very cutthroat industry, especially when it involves sports. ESPN, anyone? The goal of my company is to blow them to shreds with honest programming and live play-by-play that people can actually get behind.
Well said. And play by play is something I would like to try. Like I said, my goal is to be an on air radio host, but I wouldn't mind getting that opportunity to try either play by play or doing some color work to see if that's for me or
Mhm.
if that's something that I really want to do as well.
Yeah. Take a chance.
And I just the one guy, he tells me, I don't want to mention names. He goes, anyone can do a podcast. I said, no, that's wrong. Not everyone can do one. It's a lot of work, and it takes time to build your brand, your name, your reputation, and guest booking itself is a full
Yep.
time job too, and
It is.
promoting the show on all these social media platforms.
Mm-hmm. You and I share a common friend, Clark Monroe, producer Clark. I mean, if anybody can offer some guidance about how to book guests, how to lock them down in blocks and everything, it's him. I learned a lot from him. Same with Cole Johnson, same with Will Otero, aka Wise. A couple of people that I absolutely adore as friends, and I also adore working with.
One of the questions I wanted to ask you, Brian, as well. What are some of your most memorable interviews and stories you've done so far in your career?
Memorable interviews. We don't have time to list them all, but I already mentioned one, Cliff Levingston. When that day I was supposed to interview the volleyball coach, but she was late getting off of work. So the athletic director at Marquette Catholic in Michigan City said, well, I may not get the volleyball coach, but do you want to interview Cliff Levingston? Hell yeah, I'll interview Cliff Levingston. Why not? And the funny part is, I must have I told myself in my head several hundred times, look, this is an afternoon show. You got to pay attention to time, and you got to set it for 15 minutes. Man, that went off the board, and Cliff and I wound up talking 45 minutes before I took a break. Man, we talked a total of 90 minutes, and I took 3 breaks. And I said, stay with me. We have 2-time world champion Cliff Levingston. We'll be back in a minute. First time we took 45 minutes. Gone. And we talked about any and everything, especially involving his experience in the NBA. Best arena to play, worst arena to play, memorable stories, memorable Michael Jordan stories. Man, 45 minutes just flew by. I had the same thing with Diamond Dallas Page. And my old producer got that interview for me. And I played the music. I introduced him. I turned the clock on in my studio that counted down 15 minutes, actually 17 and a half minutes with break. Nope. Right by the board. 35 minutes later, I'm finally going to break. I'm like, what? All that happened? I've had Super Bowl champion Lee Woodall play with the 49ers, two-time champion Gary Reasons, four-time participant Glenn Parker from Buffalo Bills. I've had some great guests on my show, and Rod has been a frequent guest on my program. And just talking to them, not having a script, and just going off of a feel of what they love to talk about. You know, with Rod, he's a big fan of the Dallas Cowboys. So I throw
and I'm an Eagles fan,
and you're an Eagle fan. So I throw
Yeah.
question in there, but it's not the whole time Rod's on. It's not surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. It's surrounding it's surrounding other things that he follows.
Yeah, it's good. It's building a rapport with your guests, getting them to trust. And when I first started this show, a lot of my guests are like, okay, I can give you 15, 20 minutes. And my show was originally called 30 Minutes Live with CDP.
Yep.
Well, after the guests started talking to me, it would be like 45 minutes. I've had some shows that were 2 hours. So I scrapped the 30 Minutes Live with CDP. And I always talk to my guests. They tell me how much time they can give me, and if they can only give me 20 minutes, I do it. But majority of my guests, like you said, they'll talk to me for 45 minutes to an hour or even longer. And if it's good conversation, I'm not going to tell them, "Yep, sorry, we're done."
Right. You can't cut off. And my friend Chris Dietz, who is on my show on my morning show every Thursday, said you can have time blocks for interviews, but you can't cut off a great conversation. And he's right. And since you're an Eagle fan, I got this for you.
Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Awesome.
Count 1, 2, 3.
I can't sing.
And watch our Eagles fly. Fly, Eagles, fly, on the road to victory.
E-A-G-E-S, Eagles. I can't sing, by the way. I got no singing.
Don't worry about it. I mean,
great fight song. One of my favorite fight songs.
I played that after the NFC Championship game. I played that on repeat because my second adopted NFC team is the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said all year long it would be the Eagles and the 49ers for the NFC Championship, and people called me nuts. Then the 49ers ripped off 10 in a row to close the season, and we wound up seeing Philadelphia in the NFC Championship. And I wouldn't mind seeing y'all again.
Yeah, like I said, the Eagles have already lost some key pieces with Miles Sanders, Hargrave. They've lost C.J. Gardner-Johnson, which surprised me that he went to Detroit. Not that the Lions aren't on the way up, but he only took 1 year, $8.7 million. With the NFL, you know this too, Brian. I think the Eagles are still going to have a good team next year, but there's no guarantees because injuries can happen that you can't plan for. And next year is totally different from this year. So fingers crossed that the Eagles can get back to the Super Bowl and win it, but we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, we will see. Same with the 49ers. They've lost a lot of pieces, but they gained some great pieces. And we still have the draft coming up. We're still in the midst of free agency. Who's going to make the team? Who's not going to make the team? I can't tell you this. I know who our starting quarterback is going to be, and he wears number 13 because that kid can play.
No chance of Tom Brady?
Hell no.
No chance of Brady. You think Brady's done?
He's done.
You think this time he's done?
Cooked. I mean, we got our guy. His name is Brock Purdy.
Will he be ready for the regular season?
Yes.
And what happens with Trey? And what happens with Trey Lance?
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more.
So I guess Sam Darnold will be your backup then?
Sam will be the backup. We'll probably pick up another backup, just to be safe. But Brock's the guy. I don't know why we traded all of our draft capital to draft Trey Lance, but he's not it. He's not ready. But fortunately for the 49ers, they've gotten some draft compensation in the form of some great compensatory picks. That's a word I'm looking for. But man, I will guarantee you, my friend, everybody's going to sleep on the Eagles. Everybody's going to sleep on the 49ers. My next two words are, watch this.
That's true. I think the Niners have a good core in place, and I think the Eagles still have a solid team. And I think Jalen Hurts is a real deal. I think I
Yes.
heard it. I heard it for a couple of years. Hurts is a fraud. He's overrated, whatever. And I said to people this year, I said Hurts is a better quarterback than Josh Allen, and I said I would rather have Jalen Hurts than Josh Allen. I think Allen's a very good quarterback, but uh, I always stood with the fact that I said Hurts is one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah. Hurts is a world of improvement for Jalen Hurts. A world of improvement. And I want to see how much more that
He
he
can
can
improve.
improve from the pocket. That's my only issue. Gotta do more from the pocket. He's got the potential out of this world, and I love watching him play. Just want to see him do more from the pocket, do more scanning the field, do some checkdowns. If nothing is there, then you take off. I want Jalen Hurts and Brock Purdy and who else am I think? I want these quarterbacks to mature like Steve Young did.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Andrew, I still got, or Brian, sorry, I had Andrew
All right.
on before. So, Brian, by the way, mistakes do happen. But, Brian, just two quick questions. What do you enjoy the most about the media industry, and what are some of the hard aspects of the media industry? And my last question is quick thoughts on the NCAA March Madness, and who do you see possibly being in the Final Four or the Final Two?
My championship game, which I'll have a chance to watch this year. It's a day before my 1-year anniversary of my surgery. We'll go Houston and then Texas. In Houston, I believe Houston's going to wind up going to the Final Four, and 70,000 people at NRG Stadium will be there to watch the Cougars win it all, to make up for Phi Slamma Jammas misses in 83 and 84. The hardest thing about this industry, creating content. And it's also the thing I enjoy. Why is it so hard? Well, I shouldn't say the hardest thing is creating content. The hardest thing is getting it out there. Because there are so many people that want to come after you and say, you need to do it this way. You need to do it that way. And you're like, wait a minute. Who the hell are you? And they have no idea who you are, what you do, why you do it, and what you do it for. I would love to see both of us get monetized in the snap of a finger. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen unless you go on YouTube and create drama. I'll talk about that at a later date. But when you're creating authentic content, people don't want to see that. All you have to do is reach the people who do. Like I said, learned a lot from my partner in crime, my best friend, my beloved wife on Friday. And now it's all starting to click. It's all starting to click. I have to take my own advice and show some patience. And I also have to take my own advice. Thank you, my beloved Jody, for saying this to me. I got to take my own advice and do research and dig. If it sounds too good to be true, it usually is. And that comes, and you listen, how many times you've been in the digital media game 3 years? Let me ask you this. How many times have you had people come to you and say, I can help you get your content out there and get you monetized in a hurry? But when you ask the key question, which is a 2-word question of how much, they shut up.
Yep. Absolutely. And this past year, I created over 7,800 minutes of digital content. And I had one radio station, I won't name names, saying that wasn't enough. And I'm like, 7,800 minutes for a year of digital content to me is a lot.
Plenty.
And I try to produce good quality content. And 80% of my show Brian, is sports, but now
Yeah.
I'm also doing news anchors. I'm doing actors. I'm trying to branch out so I can show these radio stations, hey, this guy can do more than just sports. I want to be able to do a little bit of everything in this industry.
And that's how you and that's how you get better. You learn more. You learn to do more. That's why my afternoon show, Cole came up with the perfect tagline for the Brian Snow Show, where sports is the base and life and fun are the results. Because I can tell you, I've talked to a few sports guests since I launched my afternoon show, but more life topics come up, and I have fun with those.
Definitely. And I know the radio industry here in Canada has changed. It's become generic, but I'll be honest, I enjoy podcasts and your show and Rod Peterson's show over these stations now that are just doing generic stuff. And that's why Ryan O'Neill called me on Facebook and through Rod Peterson, obviously putting in a good word for me. And I was so excited when he said, yeah, we'll put you on weeknights at 8 to 9 o'clock. Can you produce 1 hour shows? And I said, 1 hour is not hard for me at all. So it's been a great
Exactly.
opportunity for me. So, and
Exactly.
and like I said, I really enjoy having it on there. And you're right. I do listen to my shows after and see what I can improve upon for my next show. And one thing too, I like to talk to my guests and get to know them as well. And
Mhm.
I've been lucky also, Brian, and I'm sure you've had this too. I've had guests that have come on 2, 3 times. Aaron Sanders, the voice of the Windsor Express, he's been
I
on my
have
show
him
6
Thursday.
times.
I'm so
He
excited to have
he's
him. I can't wait. I can't
he
wait
got me
to
in.
talk to him.
Yeah, he's only 27 years old, but he's got a mentality of a 50-year-old like
Yep.
us. He has got an encyclopedia. He is so good, and he should be on TV either in the US or Canada. He is so passionate about the National Basketball League of Canada. And Aaron is a friend of mine, and I think you'll really enjoy talking to him. He's got that it factor.
I cannot wait to talk to him. I cannot wait to talk to him. I leave with a
What
little bit of advice. Get organized. And when I say get organized, I mean any idea you can think of before you take off, write it down. As silly as it may be, as stupid as it may be, I've had to learn this the hard way several 100,000 times over. If you have an idea, either write it down or type it out, but put it somewhere where you can look at it and say, how close am I to executing this? Because if you don't write it down, someone else is going to pick it up.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you there. And final question, Brian, I wanted to ask you is where again can my Canadian audience find you on social media, your website, and quick advice for those who are watching this or listening to it later on WQEE 99.1 FM, the key in the Metro Atlanta. Advice for those looking to pursue a career in the media industry.
Well, they can find me at Snow Multimedia and Snowman Multimedia, especially on YouTube. That's how you can find me. Advice for those looking to pursue a career in the media industry: jump in with both feet. Create your own. Because the chances of you locking on with a station, slim to none, given how everything's gone digital now. So since everything's digital, and if you can find an internet connection and you think you can produce great content on an almost daily basis, jump in with both feet. Dive in and go for it, man. I mean, you're an Eagle fan, you'll enjoy this reference. Get the beefiest offensive lineman you can, the people you can trust. 4th and 1 yard line against the best defense in the NFL, and crash over them, man. Dive in, dream big. I always close my show with dream big, do bigger. I mean, I had a sign, and I have the picture of it, but I had a sign that said, if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough. Man, this is the 21st century, especially given digital media, should be the century to dream big and then dive in, bust your butt, and do the doggone thing. Go with it.
Well said, Brian. Hey, and I'm proud to be a friend of yours, and I'm proud to have my show follow your show weeknights on WQEE. And Anytime you want to come back on my show, um, you're welcome to come back on. And I really enjoy listening to your work as well. And I will definitely. What time do you have Aaron Sanders on so I can watch live?
I'll have to tell you because my calendar is updating right now. I'll have to tell you. I'll have to tell you offline, but I know he's due to be with me this week, and I can't wait to have him.
Yes.
Man, I can't wait to have him.
Definitely. And I'll definitely talk to you about Canvas. I have created a profile there, and I'm
Good.
hoping by the end of this week to start having my guests on my business cards. I just want to make it a little more professional for my show by having professional business type cards, digital ones for my guests and stuff like that, like you do
Good.
yourself.
Good. In
All right.
fact, I have Aaron tomorrow. We're just working out a time.
Okay, definitely.
Time.
And I have another show tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, with her. Her name is Abby Alonso. She's an NFL analyst and a sports journalist from Dallas, Texas. So we're going to talk a little Cowboys, a little Titans, a little NFL, and her being an NFL analyst as well. And I'm just very lucky to get so many great guests on, such as her and yourself, Brian. I really enjoyed talking to you tonight.
I'd love to have her on my show as well. As many women as I can talk to that's in the media industry.
Yep.
I'd love to talk to them.
Yeah, and one thing about my show, it is diverse. It's not just old guys; it's women, guys. I've had a volleyball player from Nebraska, so to me, diversity is also a very good key to being successful in this industry.
It's a wonderful thing. It's a
Definitely
wonderful thing, and I will drop this. I think it'll be late summer, but Jody and I are going to do a podcast, and it's
awesome.
going to be hilarious. That's all I'm going to say. It's going to be hilarious.
And I do have another podcast too called the Small Talk Podcast. It's once a month with my co-host. Her name's Andy. She's the same age as me. We work well together, and it's just basically a local news and business show. So just so I can say, hey guys, I can do local news, local businesses, and work with a co-host as well.
Good. Keep going, my man. Keep going. I love what you do. I'm becoming a bigger fan of what you do, you and Aaron Sanders, and I can't wait to have you on my program several hundred times. I can't wait for Aaron to come on. It's going to be something else. I can't wait to have. I'm 3 p.m. tomorrow. I will have Aaron on my program, and it's live, baby. I can't wait. I can't wait.
Okay. I'll have to tune in, and I'll probably be up to 2 a.m. because I've got 2 podcast shows now to download and get on my social media pages as well. But I love this. I love this. So this is something I have a passion for. And hey, like I said, Brian, thank you so much for coming on live with CDP Sports Talk, my 256th episode in 3 years.
Let's put some zeros behind it in the future. Let's put some zeros behind it, just like they're going to be zeros behind mine, and both of us are going to take off producing some great content. And thank you to you. Thank you to your fan base for listening to this humble host, talk about how he got started. And again, I leave with this same advice: dream big, do bigger. You got an idea, dive into it.
Well said. And if you can give me a half an hour, I'll have this podcast show on my audio platforms, and I will send you a copy of my YouTube channel and also my audio as well. And I will definitely talk to Ryan about airing this show as well on my show at 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. It's like unbelievable. 4 hours a week. My show is on a radio station in the States, and it's just amazing opportunity.
Isn't it though? It only takes one to get started. It only takes one, and I'm going to reach out to some more stations in the southern states. I got an online station in Phoenix, Arizona that's picked. Man, look, we're going to take over this joint. That's all I'm going to say.
I hope you're right, because this is something I have a passion for, and I really enjoy this as well, Brian. And thank you so much. I hope you do get some sleep tonight. And I look forward to listening to your show with Aaron tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And again, if you want to plug your show quickly here before you say goodnight, that'd be great as well.
The Brian Snow Show will come your way tomorrow, 3 p.m. Aaron Sanders will be my guests, and I may have a couple of other guests as well, but it's going to be a crazy production day for me tomorrow. Of course, it all starts with Snowman in the morning, 8 a.m. Eastern, and both shows will be replayed on WQEE, Brian Snow Show at 5 p.m. and Snowman in the morning replay at 6 p.m.
Perfectly done. And Brian, have a great night, and we'll be in touch with you on social media as well. Thank you so much, Brian. Have a great night.
God bless you. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
You too, Brian. Thank you so much. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed season 5, episode 35 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Gulf Auto Mall. Check out barrycollin.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles as well. Guys, before we wrap up this podcast show as well, again, thank you to my guests tonight, Andrew Wood and Brian Snow, for coming on. As you guys know, I did some media work for the National Lacrosse League this weekend. I was at the Bandits Colorado game at the KeyBank Center Saturday night, and I attended their post-game media. And here's one of my interviews in the conference with Buffalo Bison's forward, Chris Cloutier, who's from Kitchener, Ontario.
So, like you said, tough one. On to the next one. San Diego's ahead of us. Really good squad. You got to buckle down and get ready for that trip.
I know Colorado's had some success against you guys, and obviously the flashback goes back to June, of course, where they won the biggest game of all. But it seems like they play you awfully well. Anything in particular?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. We obviously talked about that in the locker room. It's something that I don't know if it's our warm up or what. Obviously it's also really tough to win games with that many penalties. It's tough to get in a rhythm for either team if there's that many penalties. And we thrive off being in a rhythm, playing our game and in a flow and using each other, and that's tough to do when it's just penalties either way.
That rhythm also hurt by, I know they're changing the offense. I think we've talked about this a couple times. That Chase comes in, guys come in and out. They're all great players, but again, building back that chemistry with a different group of guys, that part of it.
I don't think so. I think Chase came in and picked up right where he left off, and everyone was excited to have him back, myself especially. Chase is one of my best friends on the team, and he's a huge part of this team. He had a great game tonight, great, homecoming, and, he's got a big role on this team, and we're pumped to have him back. And I wouldn't say that the changing the lineup has anything to do with it. We've been changing the lineup the whole season, pretty much with injuries. That's like I said, we're chalking that one up to just not enough effort from everyone, myself especially.
You guys have been living like walking on a high wire these last 6 games. Like every game's been close and you've been pulling it out. You're probably a little surprised. You probably built up enough confidence that you're surprised something good didn't happen this time.
Yeah, you can't expect to just go down in the first. Unfortunately, that seems like how we're playing this. Like second half team, we say it all the time. But you can't bury yourself too deep of a hole. Sometimes you can't climb out, and go back to that rhythm thing. They started to catch rhythm at the end of the game, right when it counted. That's deflating for us. We got to learn to overcome that, and not let that affect us mentally, and be ready for the next play.
Hey, Chris, I'm from Guelph, by the way, so I'm not far from you because
Okay.
you're from Kitchener. So
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you a question. Since you've been in the league, do you find this league is more competitive now than ever before?
Yeah, we're getting amazing players coming in, like young guys that, are just, the talent is crazy. But the other big thing that you're seeing a lot more of now in the game is American players. They're bringing a different style of game. We got Max Adler, who's been crushing it on the faceoffs for us, giving us extra possessions. And I think that improves the level of skill in the game. But if you look back, you can't say the talent wasn't there. There's been some pretty amazing players, especially come through Buffalo.
You
Thanks,
guys
Chris.
circle San Diego on the calendar when you see it coming, when you walk outside today?
I don't think we circle anyone. You know, we come to play our game every game, and we can't factor in who we're playing before the game because, you know, if you do that, then you get outcomes like tonight.
In terms of the road trip, though?
Oh yeah. You know, it's usually a good trip, but you know, tonight's our wake up call, so it's a business trip when we get there. You know, no messing around. San Diego, you know, enjoying the sun before the game. We're there to play lacrosse, and that's it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks, Chris. All right, guys, that clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. It's under Chris Pame or Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. That was Chris Kluche, number 2 from the Buffalo Bandits, after their 13-8 defeat to the hands of the NLL champion Colorado Mammoth this past Saturday night at the KeyBank Center. Again, thank you to Ryan Ireland and Kelsey Smith for arranging my media pass there. Had a great time. If you've never been to a lacrosse game live, check out the NLL.com website or bandits.com or TorontoRock.com as well. Lacrosse is a great game. It's a combination of hockey and basketball, and lots of goals, physical play, and I love the 30-second time shot clock as well in the game as well. So please check out the National Lacrosse League's website .com as well. Guys, my next live with CDP Sports Talk brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Metro Atlanta, will be tomorrow night, Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023 at 8 o'clock Eastern. My guest is going to be Abby Alonso. She's an NFL analyst and a sports journalist from Dallas, Texas, and she's going to come on and talk about her career as a sports journalist and as an NFL analyst, and I believe she covers the Tennessee Titans and the Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to talk some NFL with Abby and also her career in broadcasting media as well. So hope you guys can tune in to season 5, episode 36 of Live with CDP Sports Talk. Again, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet and on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern as well, guys. And as always, Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com as well, guys. You guys can also follow me on TikTok. I post a lot of video content there at Live with CDP. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're into webinars or podcasting, I highly recommend StreamYard as well, guys. And also, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is produced by yours truly, CDP Media Productions 2023 as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk podcast, the audio version is available on iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Anchor FM, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, and Tuned In, and also weeknights between Monday and Thursday at 8 p.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta as well, guys. And anybody has any comments or questions or suggestions for my podcast show, you guys can email me at cpame19@gmail.com. And you guys can also follow me on LinkedIn. And also, you guys can also follow me or find me on Facebook, Twitter at Christy Pame, Instagram, and also please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, Chris Pame Live with CDP Sports Talk as well. And finally, guys, that's about it. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest tonight, Andrew Wood, for coming on, and Brian Snow. And if you guys can give me about a half an hour to 45 minutes, I will have both podcast episodes downloaded to my audio platforms as well. So I hope everybody has a great night. Enjoy the World Classic Baseball final between Japan and the States, which is going on right now. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night, season 5, episode 36 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, with my guest, Abby Alonso, NFL analyst, tomorrow night. Have a great evening, everybody. And again, thanks for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk.